What's going on, guys? Nathan with TBF Hero. I wanted to jump into a brand new video today. First video on the channel, and why not jump straight into a top 10 or even a top 20 list. So I have another channel, it's called TBF Gaming, that we do most of our gameplay and our video game stuff on. And I wanted to create a second channel, just an opportunity to kind of talk about movies, comics, and other stuff like that to really interest me, and focus mainly on heroes and comics and just kind of what they mean to me, and talk about all the movies. And what a better time to do this right now with all the great movies coming out, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, getting ready to come up with a couple big movies, Captain Marvel here in a few days, which is a huge divisive movie that spawns a lot of topics. And of course you got later on you have Avengers Endgame, which is going to be a highly anticipated movie that I cannot wait to see. So we're going to talk about the top 20 movies within the cinematic universe for Marvel. Now, I've included Spider-Man Homecoming into this, even though it's part of the Sony universe. It definitely obviously ties into this one as well. So we're going to include that one here. And then I'm going to do another list later on. I've already got them ranked up for the non-Marvel Cinematic Universe Marvel movies. And then I've also got another list for DC movies, which we'll cover in later videos. But so today we want to talk about the 20 through the 1. And we'll go kind of quickly through the first 10, and then we'll kind of pick it up for the last 10 and talk about them a little bit more individually. So starting off at the bottom of the list, unfortunately something's got to come in at the bottom. I like most of these movies. In fact, I like all of them. I've enjoyed pretty much every single movie that's come out within this universe. But number 20 is going to be Incredible Hulk. I think it kind of falls to the bottom. I think it does hold up really well as a movie. I love Edward Norton as an actor. I like what they did with the Incredible Hulk within those movies. Just overall, it didn't quite tie into the rest of the Marvel Cinematic Universe as much as the other movies, even though it was kind of like a precursor to everything. And then even at the end of one of the early movies, you get that little cutscene with General Ross, and General Ross has been a mainstay through this whole thing. And then with Mark Ruffalo picking up the Incredible Hulk later on, he becomes the definitive version of Hulk, and that just kind of hurts this original movie. But I really did like this one, and I liked the villain too. The fact that you got to see Abomination and Hulk go at it in the streets, I thought was a pretty cool fight scene. So it's not a bad movie, but it falls down to number 20. Number 19, and I kind of wrestled which one of these would fall at 19 and 20, but Thor Dark World. Of the Thor movies, of the 3 Thor movies, this obviously falls to the third spot of that trilogy. And the Thor trilogy is amazing, so it's not so bad that it's fallen down that far. But Thor Dark World, I just thought the bad guy wasn't as good, but what does save the movie for me and make it a good movie in my eyes is the fact that you get to see more of Loki's journey. You get to see him kind of turn the corner a little bit from being just the villain in the first 2 movies he appeared in to going into this one, and actually kind of start turning that around and becoming almost a good guy. Obviously, he was still with nefarious intentions, but you got to see him kind of drift into being a little bit of a good guy here, at least do some good things to show you that there's something good inside of him. So overall, it wasn't too bad. And of course, I like watching Thor's overall journey too, like his journey through all 3 movies, plus the Avengers movie. So that definitely wasn't a bad thing. Now, the next one is Captain America. And this one sucks that it's so low because, of course, I love this movie, Captain America, the First Avenger. I thought that this was a great intro story. I thought Red Skull was great. Just overall as a movie, it's not as exciting as the other ones. I wasn't as much into it. And in terms of watchability, like rewatching it, it definitely falls a little bit lower on the list. But of course, Chris Evans was absolutely amazing as Steve Rogers. You got to see his hero's journey going from a little tiny scrawny guy up to, taking his super soldier serum, becoming Captain America, and then getting to see him come into current time, which I thought was really cool. And then, of course, it ties really well into the Avengers. Next one would be Iron Man 2, kind of the same thing for Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor. The main 3 and their trilogies, each one of them. Iron Man 2 kind of falls to the back of that list for the Iron Man trilogy. Iron Man 2 just kind of struggled with not quite as good of a main villain. Whiplash, Mickey Rourke just wasn't quite as good for me. But I still liked to see War Machine. You get to see his first action in here. You get to see Black Widow in this movie. And then, of course, you get Tony Stark. Robert Downey Jr. is amazing as Tony Stark. So I definitely get to see some really good things in this movie. It just kind of falls back for a couple of reasons. And I think, if I remember correctly, this is the first one where Agent Coulson shows up too, but I can't remember if that's exactly right. Next one is Thor 1, the first Thor movie, falling at number 16. Not too far down the list, but it kind of the same thing as Thor 2. It just wasn't the most exciting movie, although I thought they did a great job of really introducing you to him, introducing you to Asgard and how that kind of works out, getting to see him come to Earth with no powers and then kind of find his way back to being a hero. I really liked. Plus you get the introduction of Hawkeye, who I love as a character, and then see him fight Loki for the first time in the Destroyer armor. A lot of cool things within the Marvel Universe that you got to see come to life in this movie, and it was a lot of fun. But overall, it just kind of falls a little bit further back, especially compared to like a Thor Ragnarok. Number 15, This one was a huge struggle because I really enjoyed this movie, Ant-Man and the Wasp. Now, Ant-Man and the Wasp, I actually think that Ant-Man and the Wasp is more fun than the first movie of Ant-Man. I really loved it. I thought Wasp was amazing. I thought some of the special effects with the shrinking and the growing was great. And all the side characters that they bring in, the villain Ghost. You get to see Morpheus as another character in this one. So you get to see all these extra characters, and it was a lot of fun. Just falls a little bit further back just because the other movies above it are so good. It's definitely not saying anything negative about Ant-Man and Wasp. But it was just a fun movie. The fact that you get to see all these things shrink and grow, it was a lot of fun. Next one, Iron Man 3 at number 14. So 14th place for Iron Man 3. I thought it was one of those movies that I thought was going to be one thing, and it switched gears so much that kind of threw me out of it. I know that's kind of a lot of people's gripe with it. I really wanted to see Mandarin. Mandarin is such a seminal character, such a seminal villain within the Marvel Universe, and we still haven't got to see that. We got to hear hints of it and think that maybe he's still out there somewhere, but overall, we got the kind of little okey doke with the villain. But of course, you get to see Iron Man, War Machine, and then even Pepper Potts gets into action a little bit later, and you get to see those heroes interact. But I didn't really like the villain as much either, so it just kind of falls a little bit further back. And thinking about it now, even as I'm looking at the list right now, I almost want to move Ant-Man and Wasp above Iron Man 3 because obviously I'm a little more positive on Ant-Man and the Wasp. Number 13, this starts getting into the movies that I absolutely enjoy, and all of them should be in the top 10, but Guardians of the Galaxy 2, just a huge, fun movie, just not quite as good as Guardians of the Galaxy 1, but you get so many cool things in here with the different interaction between the characters. You get Baby Groot, which was awesome, and you get that same music, not the same music, but another iteration of that music, which becomes a part of the movie. I just think it doesn't quite hit as many high notes as the first Guardians of the Galaxy, but overall, still a great movie, so number 13 is Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Number 12, Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange was kind of an out-of-the-nowhere movie for me. I know a little bit about him from the comics. I've read some comics with him in there, and I saw the animated version of his movie years ago, but it was never too much into the character. I always thought he was a good side character. Wasn't sure how they would do a movie of it. And the special effects and some of the magic stuff they did in here was a lot of fun. Really enjoyed the character. The only reason this movie falls a little bit further back is because I felt like I saw this movie a lot with the Iron Man journey, so it kind of pushed Doctor Strange down just a little bit, but still just an awesome character that I really enjoyed, and the movie was a lot of fun. And number 11 and 10, I've switched back and forth a lot of times, so I wasn't sure which one we were going to do, so I'm going to kind of include these both as like a tied for 10th place. So I've got these separated into a few more pictures. Hopefully they're in the right order. But the next one, let's see if we can get this here. See if it works. There we go. Next one is Avengers Age of Ultron. Age of Ultron was a really cool movie just for the characters. I know a lot of people thought it was a little bit of a mess because there was so much going on that they didn't focus on any one thing, and it kind of threw you all over the place. But come on, we got to see all these characters come together. I thought James Spader was cool as Ultron. You get to see Scarlet Witch and, very briefly, Quicksilver. And they were just a lot of fun within this movie. And it's just a movie that I enjoyed. And I definitely have gone back to watch several times since then. And I love the fight scene at the end, even though it's kind of, generic robot bad guys. It's just fun to watch the Avengers go at it against an enemy that they can kind of let loose on. It was a lot of fun. So that's number 11, kind of tied for 10th with the next movie, which is Iron Man. I mean, this one's got to be top 10. It's Iron Man. It's the first character. It's the guy that kicked it all off, and they just did such a good job with Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. He is the seminal character within all this. He kind of took Iron Man, which just in my opinion was kind of a B character within the comics, and elevated him to being maybe not the most important, but one of the most important characters within Marvel. And I think it even elevated his stature within the comics too. And he did such a good job he was the epitome of what Tony Stark was, and he just fit that character perfectly. Of course, you get to see him in the suit, you get to see his journey with all that, and then you get to see Terrence Howard as James Rhodes, and I would have loved to see him in part 2 and part 3, even though Don Cheadle was amazing. We got to see Terrence Howard in this first one, and I would love to see what he would have done with later movies, but definitely no problems with Don Cheadle. He's amazing too. But so there you go. Iron Man sits at number 10. Next one is the first Ant-Man. I struggle with this one too, just because Ant-Man versus Ant-Man and the Wasp. I like Ant-Man and the Wasp better. It's just a fun movie, but the first Ant-Man was just a little bit better to me. The introduction to the character. You got Michael Pena telling his stories, and there's a meme out there that shows that Michael Pena should be the one giving you the entire story to the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe, like telling the story the way that he does. I 100% agree with that. I think he should. But Ant-Man, just a lot of fun. Of course, I had to find a picture that had Anthony in there too, because he's a pretty big character in there. Only one that hurts this, that kind of makes me want to slide it down just a little bit, is the villain is not great, but just the fact that I got to see Ant-Man on the screen and the way he did, the way the special effects were with the going big, going small. My first cartoon that I ever watched for Marvel Universe outside of the X-Men was a Avengers, and it was Ant-Man was one of the leaders of the team. So getting to see him on the big screen was really, really cool. Big fan of him, even though this is the Scott Lang version and not, the normal version that we would get, that you got from the old comics. So I mean, definitely a good job. And the actor, the fact that he plays Ant-Man, he was a huge surprise playing Ant-Man. I was really surprised that he was going to do a good job of that. Like, he's a comedy guy. How could he be the main actor? All right. Moving on to number 8. This one, another one that when it first was announced, I was almost completely against it. The fact that they were going to do a Spider-Man Homecoming. Come on, man, Spider-Man. How many times are we going to reboot this? How many times are we going to re-see this? Just in my movie watching lifetime, I've watched Spider-Man 1, 2, 3, and then the Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2. We got to see those movies all come out, and I almost felt like a deterioration. Each step got a little bit worse, even though I like each one of them as their depictions of Spider-Man. This was definitely the best one of all of them. I love this movie for the fact that you get to really see Spider-Man in action, his youthful exuberance, the way that he carries himself, and I love Michael Keaton as the Vulture. He's top 3 of the overall villains within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which probably gives me an idea of another video we should do later on, is the top 10 villains within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. So Spider-Man Homecoming, definitely a great movie, comes in at number 8, and that's just because the 7 movies above it are that good. Next one, Thor Ragnarok. How could you not love this movie? So much comedy. I know a lot of people kind of are detractors of it because they say that the story isn't that great, that they rely too much on humor and not enough on great story. But I think that you actually get to see a really cool, just the way they bring so many things within the Marvel Universe together, and the comedy was great. I had a fun time with this movie. I definitely had a great time. You got to see everything from kind of a Planet Hulk depiction, where you get to see him in the gladiator arena and him fighting Thor, and when Thor first sees him and he's super excited that it's a friend from work. How could you not love that? And then going back to fight Hela, she's an amazing actress and was a really good villain, even though we didn't get enough time with her to really elevate her up the stature of all the villains. And then you get to see Loki as more of a good guy, which, like I said, it's weird, but he does such a good job at it. He's such an amazing actor that is no surprise. They get one of the Valkyries in here. It just, so many good actors in this, so much fun to watch. Definitely a good movie that I've gone back and watched several times. So putting this at number 7, definitely not a bad thing. All right, number 6, Black Panther. This movie, if we're talking cultural relevance or how important it was or how much it meant to people, this movie will go number 1 in terms of just how big it was for friends of mine, how big people who just loved this movie and the world building and everything in it. It could go way higher. Just for me as a movie, there's a few things that kind of fell apart, especially towards the third act, where it got a little bit crazy with the CGI and some of the fight scenes. But it's an amazing movie. Every one of the actors in this is phenomenal. Think about even like the smallest parts. They did such a good job. Forrest Whitaker's like a tiny part in the movie, and he was great. You got your 2 token white guys down the bottom, which is a joke from a meme. Not saying anything negative. From the J.R. Tolkien movies, you got Gollum and Bilbo Baggins. I think if I'm referencing it right, both those two, they're super minor characters, and they were both great in it. Every one of the Black Panther's inner circle were amazing. Chadwick Boseman's absolutely awesome as the main character, and of course Michael B. Jordan definitely stands out as one of the top 3 villains within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and just everything he does, he brings so much power to the role. I definitely love watching pretty much anything with him in it, except for maybe Fantastic Four, but that's on another list completely. All right, so there you go, Black Panther, number 6, definitely worthwhile, definitely worth seeing. I think I've watched that movie probably 20 times since it's come out on digital. All right. Next one, top 5. Top 5 was a complete wrestle for me back and forth. Winter Soldier was probably what I rated number 1 when I first went through the list, and I kind of wrestled with it back and forth. But Winter Soldier was just such a great movie. You got the return of Bucky Barnes as the Winter Soldier, which was amazing. Black Widow's doing her thing. Just at the very beginning when they're going on that ship, that opening scene where they're going in all stealth and taking out everyone on the ship, right there alone sets the scale so high for this movie, and it's such a good movie from there. And it's a spy thriller movie. I don't even know what genre would really fall under other than obviously the hero genre, and they just did a great job with it throughout the movie. I've definitely gone back and watched this movie several times, and it's something I'll go back and watch in the future, and I think it holds up as not just a great hero movie or a comic book movie or Marvel movie, but it's just a great movie overall. And placing it at number 5 actually hurt a little bit, and it's just because the ones above it, even though they may not be better movies, because this might be the best overall movie within this category, just in terms of like how much I enjoyed it or what I liked the most, this one falls at number 5. Number 4, Guardians of the Galaxy. Never thought I would have said this. I've read their comics. I thought they were okay before the movie ever came out. They were always, decent characters. I liked Drax and Gamora in the comics. I liked Groot. Star-Lord was okay in the comics, but once they brought him to the screen, and then they get this actor from Parks and Rec that you're just like, there's absolutely no way that he's going to be some superhero, and he completely pulls it off. From the very first trailer that you watch where they mix in the music to the movie and the way that the music is almost like another character with the movie, it's one of my favorite movies. I've probably watched this more than any movie other than the actual main Avengers movies, and the way this group came together, I really, really hope they make a third movie of this, even though it may not happen. From my old watching wrestling days as a kid, Dave Bautista's amazing. Every one of the actors in here is awesome. And you may have Vin Diesel playing a giant tree. How could you not love that? All right, so there you go. That's Guardians of the Galaxy. Definitely an amazing movie. Sitting at number 4. I had a lot of fun watching this. I'll definitely watch it again. I might watch it again today. All right. Next one. This one and Winter Soldier was definitely a fight back and forth, and I couldn't figure out which one to go first. This one could have actually been number 1 overall. I watched a few other top 10 lists to get their ideas on it, and it definitely went number 1 on quite a few people's list. Captain America Civil War. Kind of took Civil War from the comics, brought it to the main screen, and you got to see so many characters. You got to see them actually face off with each other. You get the introduction of Spider-Man. You get to see Vision fight a little bit. You get to see just the whole team go back and forth. You get to see Black Widow doing her Black Widow thing where she's kind of bouncing back and forth between her roles, which team she's really on. Black Panther gets his first real scene time in this one, kind of setting up the Black Panther movie later on. And yeah, just an amazing movie. And honestly, my favorite part of this whole movie is actually when they're just sitting in the car and Steve Rogers is talking to I think last name Carter. I can't remember the character's name. He's talking to, I think, Peggy Carter's great grandkid or daughter or something like that, and he's talking to her, and you got Winter Soldier and Falcon sitting in the car, and they're joking about that being their best friend or whatever. They're happy because he's hanging out with that girl that he likes. So it was really funny to watch. Little character moments like that are what make me love movies like this. And then, of course, obviously you get just the whole storyline. Bucky kind of going on a redemption tour, things like that. It was a lot of fun. Loved this movie. Definitely deserves to be in the top 5, and I've got it placed at number 3. All right, so that means there's only 2 movies left. They're both Avengers movies. So it's Avengers or Avengers Infinity War. I've gone back and forth on this one too, and it was a hard one. So number 2 is the first Avenger movie. This movie's amazing. I think in terms of we're just talking about like a cinematic experience. When I first went and saw this in theater, this is probably one of my favorite ever sitting in a theater watching, especially for superhero movies. And just the idea that they brought all these amazing heroes together. They have the Incredible Hulk. They have all these things going on at once. It was a lot of fun to watch, and I think this might be the one that my family has gone back and watched most, just because it's so rewatchable. It's so much fun, and it's the first one, so it ends with a really positive ending, and it's very happy. And man, it's what you wanted to see when they brought all these movies together. Didn't know if they could do it. Didn't know how it would be, but definitely worth it. Every one of the actors in here, I think, fit the character perfectly, and just to see them all together on the screen, and especially even Mark Ruffalo as Incredible Hulk. I talked about him earlier, how he took over the Incredible Hulk. When he first got cast, everyone was like, who is this guy? What is he going to do? And then he was amazing. He was actually perfect for it. He was the complete antithesis to the Hulk, playing Dr. Banner, and everyone loves that line where he says, "My secret is that I'm always angry." And of course, I'm messing up the quote, but you get what I'm saying. He's basically gives the great line, turns into the Hulk, and then punches the giant flying thing that's coming at him from the alien race that they're fighting. And it was just a really cool fight scene at the end where they're all in a giant city. Things are getting destroyed, and they're doing their best to try not to let everything get destroyed and protecting the people at the same time that they're fighting the bad guys. It was just pretty amazing to see this, and it has huge ramifications moving forward to the rest of the movies. And that brings us to obviously the culmination of what we've watched up till now, and then we're going to have to, once we get to Endgame and Captain Marvel coming soon, we'll have to see where they rate. But the number 1 movie for me personally was Avengers Infinity War. It was just such a huge culminating event. This movie gets the benefit of being a capstone of all the great movies before it. So obviously if this movie was just by itself, if we're just judging this just solo on its own, it may not be as high as some of the other movies. I would definitely place Black Panther, Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy, Civil War, and even the first Avengers all probably higher than this movie as an individual movie. But because of all those movies and the foundation that all these movies built, it gave this movie such a tall leaping board or diving board to jump off of, and they didn't mess it up. They landed it perfectly in my opinion. Thanos was absolutely amazing. The idea that we finally saw Thanos and the Infinity Stones on screen was crazy. So many years in the making, and to finally see it on screen was amazing. And no one saw the ending coming. When that came, everyone was so excited about it. It was a lot of fun, and it was so cool to go to the theater and walk out with everyone just going, wow, wow. And and luckily the movie didn't get ruined for me, so I was definitely surprised when it happened, and it was just a lot of fun, and it's something that I haven't gone back and watched as many times as the previous Avengers, but I think as time goes on, it'll be a movie that I go back to quite a bit, especially after we learn the fate of these heroes when we move into Endgame. So there you go, guys. Kind of a long video. Looking at the timer down there, it's over 20 minutes, so over 20 minutes for the first video on here. What I plan on doing on this channel is mainly talking about heroes and movies and comics and maybe some other things kind of thrown in there too. This is just kind of my second channel to help me do some more things that I enjoy, because although I love playing video games, there's so many more things that interest me, and I'd like to be able to do those a little bit on YouTube, kind of hopefully become a little more creative, get a little bit better at speaking, those kind of things. Maybe slow down a little bit. I know I talk way too fast. I'll do my best not to go too crazy with that. But if you guys do like the video, definitely hit the like button. If you guys have different suggestions, if I'm wrong on my top 10, wrong on the top 20, let me know where I'm messing up. Put it down in the comments down below. As always, if you want more videos like this, go ahead and subscribe. I'm going to work on getting a little bit better editing for these. I usually just edit video game clips. So to do different pictures and still pictures like this is kind of a learning event for me. So I haven't really figured it out yet, but we're going to figure it out as we go. So like I said, my name is Nathan, part of TBF Hero. Just going to do some videos like this. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. I will talk to you here in a couple days. This Saturday we'll be going to see Captain Marvel, Miss Marvel. We'll get to go see that movie and finally put out our opinions on it compared to a lot of the craziness, both high and low, surrounding this movie. Some of the early reviews are already in. It's very mixed, as we could expect, and I'll definitely put out my opinion on that. But all right, guys, I've rambled long enough. Over 20 minutes. Holy cow, way too long for a first video. Maybe I should make a second intro video. I don't know. We'll see. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.